The elephant graveyard. That's what they called it. The older boys said no one should go in there, not even a yard, under the elderly alders and their skeleton arches, whose leaves never grew even while basking in the height of summer sun. The older boys said no one should never go in there, not even an inch. They say the tree trunks burrow and emerge like ginormous worms, the lumps of the trunks of dead elephants. But if you ignored their words, if you kept going and if you had the nerve, down beneath the thickets and through the muddy darkness, so heavy it would stain your shoes with little brown kisses, you would find a cavernous opening where pebbles, untouched, piled up high like tombstones. In their voices, gruff, malign, and bleached with lies, they told him once that when baby elephants died, their mothers would bury them here. New and old mothers would come again and again just to put their babies in the ground, there and then, down beneath the tall ferns and the pines, in the innermost part of the forest where only the moon ever shined. But their babies would continue to grow. They would continue to live life down below, blooming beyond the trees, growing greater than their own mothers. Beneath the dirt, leaves, and pink powdery moon dust, they would live a life until those that gave them birth too had died. The older boys said that at night their trunks would writhe like tentacles and grab onto your knee and thigh just to pull you under, dead or alive, summon you to their melancholy playground. Oh, they craved the company. They craved somebody. And the stories you might share of their mothers living above ground comfortably. But they were never angry. They just waited patiently. In the little classroom where our boy was often kept, the cold endured through spring and summer. No matter how high the heat leapt through the cracks in the glass, no matter how finely it crept through the creaky wooden frame. Next to him were his apology papers, the same sentence written 200 times over, which he always submitted diligently to the authorities as he wept. Surrounded by cardboard walls, mud and blood dribbled from his knee like rust, mixed with salty sweat, and his shoulders always ached from the bruises that they left. Beneath the moldy ledge, where the older boys' dirty, taunting fingernails crawled like daddy longlegs, Miss Williams's pencils, neatly carved lead, poked out of a coffee mug like knives in their stand, and she would sit by them, defending her gun closet, sipping on dregs, and he would place his feet firmly to the floor, keeping his chair balanced to stop it from rocking back and forth. On these dismal days, Miss Williams would tower over him, peering down as he scribbled in aged ink, until the blisters on his hands erupted and cracked. The older boys, with a snarl and a firm slap on the back, said she'd bring the cane out of its archaic grave just for him. The rain came down outside at 3 p.m., just as it always did, and the sun would set behind the hairy woods. And in the half-light of dusk, Miss Williams would stand against the smudgy windows like a lonely black orchid, and she would look so terribly small. And as she wrung her hands with a damp tissue, our little boy promised himself one thing: I will never be as lonely as you. He stared at the elephant graveyard while she roared, while she spoke obscene words to harm and scorn. And so one cold winter's day, he bolted up from his desk at dusk and pierced the outside world by barging through the heavy metal door. He ran as fast as he could, and though the rain poured and poured, he trudged on through cloying mud mounds, wetting his shorts, crawling under leafy archways, staying hidden of course, and burrowed further and further like a frightened rabbit. His breaths are quick and short. He kept going and going until he stood on top of the widest trunk he could find and stood there, hoping and praying that the stories were true, that the baby elephants would hear him as he climbed and clambered up to a thin patch of bark upon which somehow the sun was still shining. And maybe they would drag him down there, under the dirt, the filth, and the rotten carcasses of the dead foxes that lay scattered by. And maybe the baby elephants would play with him. And they would play together. And they would live in a world more promising for life than the land up above, where empathy was a treasure only the most skilled hunters could tether. They would do all this beneath the silence of the earth, while they waited patiently for their mothers.
We had like an elephant graveyard at school when I was a kid. It's a terrifying, horrible little forest. I went in there once, and just as it was getting dark, and yeah, it's a real place. And I'd love to go back there and see how it compares now to what I have in my mind as being a young child. It's kind of just about a kid who wants to be seen, and he's a sensitive child. But it's also about, I don't know, how we overcome obstacles, we overcome our people who are trying to oppress us and tell us things about the world which aren't particularly true. And we go out and we test those things ourselves. We find something really beautiful in it. So, yeah, that's what it's about, really.